an ISIS attack. But what threshold do we have to get to before we would? I mean, is this, in my line of reasoning, am I falling into the trap, the same trap that I keep telling everybody not to fall into, of thinking that just because somebody's operating as a lone wolf operator or in a team of just two, that they might just be solo operators without an official tie? Do you have to have an official tie to ISIS to be acting as an agent of ISIS? You know, I tend to think that I would like somebody that's speaking on my behalf to actually be an official member of my group. I don't want some random person that has never met me before to go out and give an interview about what Tap Into the Truth is doing next week. You know? In this particular case, I don't think it matters, though. I think in a lot of ways you could go ahead and say that, yes, this indeed is an ISIS attack. Because in a lot of ways, that's what's happened. It was definitely a terror attack. It was definitely an instance of somebody looking to make a name for themselves, who wanted to become a martyr. But these are some questions that we're going to look into a little bit more in depth on this upcoming Sunday's broadcast. So, this upcoming broadcast on BTR, if you don't ever listen to it, then please look it up on Stitcher afterwards. I've got Dr. Bill Warner coming on in the second hour. He has PhDs in mathematics, and he is one of the most learned students of Islam in the United States. He's a public speaker, he's an author, he's written several books, in fact. He is a professor. He was a professor. He is still an educator. He writes a blog now. He debates where invited. He's a human rights activist. He's a scientist. He's a pioneer. He's just getting back in the country this past week from touring Europe, where he's been lecturing, and he will be on the BTR broadcast this Sunday of Tap Into the Truth. I'm also going to have other guests in the first hour for the Constitutional Party's upcoming convention here in Tennessee. We'll be discussing that. Still trying to get all that stuff squared away and finalized, so at this point, I know for sure somebody will be coming on. I haven't worked out all those details. So if either of those things interest you, excuse me, then I highly recommend you can find the links to the BTR broadcast. They'll be up on Facebook as an event. I'll go ahead and get those over on Tea Party Community. This one, I'll get it up as soon as I've finalized everything for the first hour guests. So you can find me on Facebook. You can look me up at Tim Tap on Facebook. You'll know which Tim Tap it is. You can look up Tap Into the Truth over at Facebook. You can go to tapintothetruth.com. TAPP Into the Truth, all one word, Tap Into the Truth, one word, .com. And you can find links to upcoming broadcasts and all that stuff there as well. Excuse me, just a second. I got a little tickle in my throat again. So I wanted to throw that out there. And while I'm at it, let's go ahead and throw out the fact that, you can find the show at iTunes. You can find the show at tunein.com. You can find us at stitcher.com. You can find us at podcast.com. Tap Into the Truth. We're growing. We've had a tremendous amount of plays over the last few weeks. Well, I mean, maybe not for the big boys, but for me, I mean, we've been creeping up around 1 million weekly plays. I hadn't quite broke that level yet, but we've been getting close. And some of the broadcasts we've had for the last 2 months have now finally, in archived listens and on demand, have finally broken that number of 1 million on individual. Starting with when I had Ron Eccles on the show. Rod is another conservative host, and he's really growing his audience, and I was happy to have him come on for a little while, and we just had a discussion about his show and then his feelings about the current political status. He was on the BTR broadcast as well. But what has been amazing about the growth of the show and all these plays, to my mind, is that the majority of them have been coming from Stitcher and iTunes. Still not getting a heck of a lot of plays right here at Spreaker. Not getting a heck of a lot of plays directly at BTR. But, when we look across the board and I look at all the different formats that the show's available at, and then I look at the total number of plays, that to me, considering where I was at before my return, at the end of my most recent hiatus, showing up for this is amazing to me. And I want to thank everybody out there that's listening. Because, it means a lot to anybody who's going to decide to host a show that people care enough not only to listen, but to share. And that's the only way that these shows get this many plays. Is folks are sharing it with their friends. They're like, hey, you know what? You'll probably like this guy. So thank you. I appreciate it, especially those of you that are over at Stitcher and at iTunes, because you're picking it up. I got to tell you, hey, you guys over at TuneIn.com, you're falling behind. Come on. And then as far as the folks here at Spreaker, I know most of the folks that are listening directly here are probably other hosts. And that's all right, too. Just, I know you're probably going to be spending more time trying to share your own show and promoting your stuff than somebody else's fellow show, so... Excuse me. That's another reason why I'm going to have to try and wrap things up here in a few minutes, because I thought it's about to give away. I've been fighting this stuff between allergies and this sinus infection that I've been trying to deal with for a little while now. I have just been... I'm a lot better off than a lot of folks. I'm not complaining. Okay, don't get me wrong. This is not me saying, well, that's not what I'm doing. It's my way of trying to explain why my voice is going in and out, so it's affecting the quality of the podcast. So, I don't want to sound like I'm all, I'm so sorry. But, that I think you deserve an explanation. That's the explanation. Okay. I did want to talk about last Sunday's broadcast. So I say it like it was a long time ago. Tonight's Monday night, at least for the next few minutes anyway. So it was just yesterday, technically. It's been just a little over 24 hours at this point. I focused on, and I didn't get to make all the points I wanted to, but I focused on Baltimore, the riots, what's been going on there. And I tried to make the point several times that there are actually multiple things that we need to be looking at and talking about as Americans that are on display there. The militarization of the police, the growing level of the police state. Those were a couple of the topics. The lack of political will, the lack of political leadership. The fact that these liberal democratic ideas and notions have proven themselves to be failures. Whether you're talking about Detroit, whether you're talking about Miami, whether you're talking about Baltimore, these are places that have been controlled by liberal Democrats politically for a very long time. And they went from being productive cities with vibrant industries to becoming criminal cesspools where people don't feel comfortable even living there anymore. That's something that we need to look at. That's something that we need to talk about. You can't blame white Republicans for a problem where they haven't been the folks in charge and haven't been making decisions for decades. That's still what you're supposed to be trying to buy. That's what you're supposed to be buying into. But a little common sense applied tells you that's just not reasonable. And then I tried to also get to the point about how ridiculous it is for folks to be calling for nationalization of the policing. That's just a fancy way of calling for martial law, boys and girls. That's the Reverend Al Sharpton who first came out with it, and he's continued to make those calls because he doesn't feel like the Baltimore police force is capable. Well, it's not just Baltimore that he wants to roll out federal policing. That is unacceptable, boys and girls. We need local police. But then later in the show, I was trying to make the point that also, per my big going on, my reaching across the aisle mentality that I've been trying to express this year, I've been trying to talk about respect, how we need to get back to a point where we respect each other. Because we do. We need to get back to where there is respect. We can't sit here and expect our kids to be respectful when we don't show them interactions with other people that are respectful. We can't sit here in front of a television where the TV shows have people trying to pull stuff over on other people, and commercials have kids being disrespectful to adults, and we're supposed to think that's funny. Everywhere, we're constantly being bombarded with these images of there's no reason to respect your neighbors or your friends or other people, period. Don't respect their stuff. And while you're at it, don't even respect yourself. We see this kind of thing. And we've got to get back to respect. And I was trying to make the point of how we need to get back to a point where our interactions with police officers are better, where we can avoid the adversarial nature of these interactions. That we need to expect that from the police, but we also need to keep in mind that we ourselves have a responsibility with that. Well, see, the point of having a 2-hour show and making multiple topics is as you move from one point to the next, that, well, sometimes people are tuning in later in the broadcast. Sometimes people show up after you've made the other point that they're more likely to agree with. I had somebody jump into the chat room, and they were just absolutely giving me what for about what BS it was I was spouting, how this is just about the police state, and there's nothing else to be considered here, and while the individual is, of course, welcome to their opinion, I'm afraid that because this person missed the earlier points, that she closed herself off to that point. And that's where we've got to get ourselves back on track, because we've got to bring ourselves to a point where we understand that we are responsible for our behavior. We are responsible for how we interact with other people, whether they're wearing a badge or not. Most police officers are simply folks that are doing a hard job. And they're doing it the best they can, and they're just trying to serve in the communities that they live and work in. And that's what they do. They are worthy of respect by virtue of being willing to put on that uniform and walk out the door each and every day, because that uniform is a bullseye. It always has been, but it's an even bigger one these days, especially in certain parts of the country. Well, I simply was at the point where we need to work on our interactions, and that making the statement that most police officers are in fact good guys. It only takes a few to make them all look bad. And when we go out of our way to create adversarial situations, we put them in a position where, whether they want to or not, they have to try and maneuver to maintain control. Are there bad cops? Yes. Most definitely. I think we all know at least one. I don't think there's any question there. A lot of us maybe know more than one. Most of the cops I know, though, they're all great guys. Most of them would lay down their lives in a heartbeat for a stranger.